Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine. Should Black Sabbath do one last gig together at Villa Park in the UK? And should they do one more album? I want to discuss that because the internet is just full of people diving in, giving their opinions. And this is an opinion. But I've done a lot of Black Sabbath videos, and Black Sabbath are one of my favourite bands. So I feel that I'd like to share my point of view, and please share yours in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube or on the website or on the Facebook page or wherever else that you may find this. So Geezer has said that he is up for doing one last gig, and Villa Park, where they all grew up and they're all Aston Villa fans, will be the ideal place to do it. Bill Ward has said also that he will be up for this. And of course, Ozzy was one of the first of the four to come forward and say he would like to do a farewell gig. He feels there's unfinished business with Black Sabbath and to do that gig there. And of course, we've seen on social media and where else they have actually, Ozzy and Geezer are in the Aston Villa promo video where they're talking about the new strip for the football team. I come from a family of Aston Villa fans as well, so this is all incredibly important to us. And in various Facebook groups and online, lots of people are saying they shouldn't do it. Ozzy isn't up to it. They're 10 years too late. They said it all when they did the tour called The End, even though Bill wasn't with that tour because he felt he wasn't given a signable contract, that it is all done. You know, when you watch Ordinary Man by Ozzy Osbourne, you feel like there's a full stop. It is done. And of course, Ozzy Osbourne has not been very well and his health has deteriorated. And people feel that his voice isn't up to it. He won't be able to walk. He won't be able to stand. So leave it alone. Let's keep the memories as they are. And of course, if they do it, what will it be like? I feel that if they want to do it, and of course Tony Iommi hasn't said anything yet. I know he's been busy with launching his new perfume range and his jewellery made out from guitar strings, and of course the solo albums are going to be issued on vinyl that he did with Glenn Hughes for the first time. But nevertheless, he must be watching this with interest. If not, by the time this video goes out, he's made a decision. I think it's managing expectations. Because I think as four guys that grew up together as friends, they didn't know they were going to invent a new genre of music. They were just making music. Bill Ward is a jazz drummer. You know, they were a blues band to start with. They have defined a genre. And a lot of people now, because the Black Sabbath have an image that whereas the Perps and Zepp are probably not as seen as a band that's still together in the way that all the marketing and the imagery and everything else that goes. Sabbath always seem to be in the news. Ozzy's always there. There's always something going on with the band in a way, even though there's not anything coming out from the band. And I feel that if they want to do one last gig at Villa Park, then as four guys, as four mates, they should do it. Behind the scenes, it's not as easy as that, is it? Because Black Sabbath is Ozzy and Iommi, with Geezer and Ward outside of that. So everything isn't split 25%. They're not that anymore, which is probably where the non-signable contract for Bill came about, because he probably thought, well, it should be. We're the original band. We should go back to that. But that isn't how it's worked. And we know that we've got issues with the way that the Tony Martin said that new stuff couldn't be released under the Black Sabbath name because it's seen as Black Sabbath. And if it's new Black Sabbath, then it has to be the original members. So there's all sorts of stuff tied up in that. And a lot of people put that squarely in front of Sharon or the wives or the girlfriends or the partners of the band. And I just want to say at this point, I am going to mention Sharon, and but I'm not going to say anything against her, and I don't want any of you to either, because the way I run this channel website is that I always presume the people I'm talking about will actually, they might watch it and they might want to come and talk to me, and many have and do. And also Sharon is Ozzy's love of his life, and if everyone just keeps put lots of abuse online and he reads that, how would he feel? So for those of you watching this, think about how Ozzy's feelings. We're dealing with people who have been part of my life and part of yours, I imagine, for a very long time. Bill Ward, Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler. Fantastic albums. You can see some of them around me, and the ones that you can't see are in front of me, Techno Ecstasy and Sabotage and Never Say Die. If they do this gig, it isn't going to be a 3.5 hour Bruce Springsteen, Bon Jovi type event. It's going to be about an hour. It's going to be about 60 minutes, probably, max. And if some of you who've got used to these big arena events think that is like a cop-out, it isn't. There's a reason why all the classic 70s double live albums fit on a single CD. Think about it, they all do. And that's because the average set list and concert for a headline act in the 70s was about an hour. An hour, 80 minutes maximum. When I used to go to the Birmingham Odeon, there'd be 2 bands on and you could still get to the pub for last orders before 10:30. So about 60, 80 minutes. I remember Ian Gillan saying 60 minutes is long enough for a concert because you watch the support act, etc. So they're going to do about an hour. And that becomes then, how do they do this? How do they pitch this? If they're going to do one gig, how much are the tickets? A new pop act, Sabrina, I think her tickets are something like 250 quid, and lots of people have moaned about that. And tickets, those of you who go to concerts, they're hundreds of pounds. So how much would tickets be for a Black Sabbath concert where there's only going to be one of them? And that's where, Sharon, if you're watching, don't just see dollar signs or thinking of put it on sale and just banking it and just edging your bets in case the gig is put back or doesn't happen. I think this has to be for the fans, and it has to be through the intent and the spirit of how these 4 guys came together and rehearsed and became a band. It has to capture that sense of wonder to how these guys felt and the reason why they're doing it. They might be doing it because they want to do this one last thing for the fans, but I don't think that is the entire motivation. I think it's because they're all getting older and they want to be on that stage one last time, looking at each other in the eyes. They move through some of these classic songs. And so they just want to do it. And there'll be a temptation to think, well, we should do one in America. We should do one in America as well. We should do one in Australia. And then it becomes a tour, doesn't it? And I don't think any of them really want to do that. They want to do it at the Villa Ground because they're all from Aston in Birmingham. It's part of their roots and they want to be connected to how that felt when they did it. The health of the band. Tony's has ongoing cancer treatment to keep it at bay. Ozzy is very poorly. He can't walk and do what he used to do. Is he going to do it being stood in one place, come up through a stage door in the floor? Is he going to do it sitting down? Does that matter? If you're trying to imagine it should be Black Sabbath how they were, then maybe it does matter to you. But to me, it doesn't. It's just 4 guys who want to do this. What about Ozzy's voice? Well, I reviewed and interviewed Billy Morrison, the guitar player from Billy Idol's band. And obviously Crack Cocaine is a track from that, which Ozzy wrote the lyrics for and sings on that. And Ozzy sounds fantastic. His sense of rhythm and writing catchy melodies and that is intact. His voice sounds fantastic. And the last 2 solo albums, to me, have been some of the best he's ever done. So I don't think voice is in question. It's accepting the fact that what his limitations are and what he can do physically. So which is why I think we should accept it could be 60 minutes. And also, it will be cherry-picked on the stuff that he can do without it putting him out of breath or putting the rest of the songs in jeopardy. So we're not going to get Hole in the Sky. We're not going to get Megalomania. We're not going to get deep cuts from Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. We're not going to do that. We're going to get Iron Man. We're going to get Lord of this World. We're going to get Black Sabbath. We're going to get Paranoid. We're going to get War Pigs. And we might get a kind of a mix-up or mash-up of other riffs and stuff that Tony will do while Ozzy's, going off stage or taking a breather. I think that's what we're looking at. And I don't think Bill Ward is going to be doing a mammoth drum solo. But I do believe that Bill Ward can do this. When you watch a lot of young metal bands, and especially for those of you of a certain age like me, when you used to go and see bands in the 70s, drum kits were set up so sometimes the drums are a bit further away than they need to be, so that the drummer, for dramatic effect, had to really stretch out to hit them as hard as he could. If you watch the new DVD by Deep Purple, watch Ian Pace, it looks so relaxed, as if he's hardly hitting anything. And Ian Pace is also from a jazz big band background, as is Bill Ward, so Bill doesn't have to wear himself out doing this, so he can do it. I believe they all should do it. Is it going to be filmed? How can they not film it? How can they not film it and release it as a Blu-ray, a DVD or whatever? Or should they stream it? That might work. But does it put pressure on them if it's filmed? They just want to get together and do this. Have they got to think, oh gosh, if we make a mistake, we can't go back and fix it because it's the only gig we're doing? Maybe it could be streamed and people have to pay per view or something. But do they really need the money apart from making sure they don't lose money? Could it be a way of kind of donating money to a local cause in Birmingham, paying back to their roots of what the city of Birmingham means to Black Sabbath and the fans from that area, if you like. So I think there are lots of things to think about, and maybe that takes away some of the potential greed from promoters or whoever else might be involved, thinking this is going to be a good earner. I don't know. So should they do just one gig, or if now that they've actually shook hands, should there be one more album? But 13 was their last album, wasn't it? And how do you feel about the album 13 now? I feel, to me personally, 13, which got to number 1 around the world, and because it got to number 1 around the world, they drew a line and thought, we can't follow this up. They were going to do another album, but when something goes to number 1, it's inevitable that the next one you do, because the kind of freshness, the kind of exclusiveness of you've reformed, you haven't been around for a long time, that excitement, well, you're back now. And undoubtedly, the next album, if they'd done another album, would not have made number 1, and it would have made number 2 or number 3 or number 10 or 15, and it would have looked as if they were going down. So they obviously thought, wow, we've got to number 1. This is a good place to stop. We're stopping with a number 1 album. But I feel enough time has passed now to put that in perspective. And so if they did another album with the excitement and the anticipation of them doing this one last gig, they may get a number 1 album again. And I personally feel that a new album would be a good place to draw a line as well. So what is wrong with 13? Nothing, technically. It got to number 1. But I do have a problem with it personally. All of Black Sabbath's albums, all of them, progress. And, I mean, it's a great picture of Ozzy in the booklet for 13. What I'm trying to say is that if you look at the albums, Black Sabbath, Paranoid, Master Reality, Volume 4, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, Sabotage, Technical Ecstasy, Never Say Die. Each one of those albums progresses, no matter what's going on within the band, whether they're experimenting with substances that maybe they shouldn't be. The music themselves as musicians are constantly learning and going forward and getting better and exploring new avenues of sound and song structure. They are far more than a heavy metal band. Just look at Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It's like a progressive rock masterpiece. You know, the use of strings, the arrangements, Sabotage, the way... Technical Ecstasy, again, is progressive. The use of harmony and the song structures, they're constantly going forwards. Even in some ways to Never Say Die, which is an album that it's only been recent years that I've actually grown to like. But I cannot get away the pop sensibility of the choruses and the melody behind it. And then looking back to Into the Void, Supernaut, and all these classic tracks, War Pigs and everything. Everything's moving forward. My issue with this one was they were put in a room, the original band were back together, let's create the Black Sabbath sound, let's create a traditional Black Sabbath album. And I think they tried, or the producer wanted them to recreate something that sounded like those first 4 albums. And I think it didn't work because they've already done that. And not only had they already done that, but Tony Iommi, who is the main conductor, orchestra of Black Sabbath, had not only done that, he'd moved through the 80s, through the Dio years, through the Tony Martin years. He'd done lots of things as a musician, the way he learned his craft as a guitarist, as a songwriter and arranger, his recording techniques. He was constantly pushing forwards. He always had done. And for 13, they were told to look backwards and try and create something that was a long time ago. And it sounds forced to me. It sounds like they were trying to almost be a Black Sabbath cover band, and they are Black Sabbath. So to me, it didn't work. The album was produced by Rick Rubin. I can see he was incredibly enthusiastic of trying to create this Master Reality paranoid type sound in the year that came out. But I just felt it sounded forced. And no doubt the band said all the things they needed to say, but I wonder if they look back now and think, if they just thought, we're all getting together, we've all experienced life differently. Ozzy had done his solo career, Geezer had done his different stuff as well, Bill Ward, and whatever they're going through emotionally with their families and partners, they were where they were and they were back together. If they do that now, would they write music that was fresh, contemporary in the world of Black Sabbath as it finds itself in 2024? And in some ways, that is what I would like to see, because I don't want Black Sabbath to try and create the world of when they were 24 or 22. Could you do that? Could you, if someone said, I want you, can you just create something as if you were 22? You can't, because you're not anymore. You've experienced life and life has done things to you. You're a different person. So you've still got the thread of your story, and you can play songs from that period, or you can visit things, but you can't go back to that point because you're different. And I think this one last gig is a good idea. Whether it's not even a gig that has an audience in front of it, but it's in it's at the Villa Ground, and they just do a few numbers and they do an interview, or there's ways of doing this for the fans. That my thing is thinking of these musicians is I don't want them to feel pressurized or feeling that it's suddenly become like a monster and they wish they hadn't thought about it, as all the people behind it, all the people thinking money. I want them to be able to just do it for the fun. But one last album where they don't have to try and recreate the first Sabbath album. They just create music based on where they are now. It'll be Black Sabbath because it's Black Sabbath. Technical Ecstasy isn't paranoid, is it? But it's Black Sabbath. That's what I'm trying to get at here, is that each of the Sabbath albums is Black Sabbath. They all are. And you know how I feel about all the other ones with Tony Martin and Dio, that they're, all Black Sabbath albums can be trusted. All of them. And that's why I think it would be great to end on a Black Sabbath album that has their name on it, with these 4 people, Tony Iommi, the riffs, Geezer, the lyrics, Ozzy, the voice and melody, and Bill Ward, an absolutely superb drummer, creating music with the things and life experiences that have got them to this point. So those are my thoughts on it, and I hope something comes together. I really do. So let me know what you think in the comments. You can email me, you can reach out to me through the website or wherever you're watching this. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Keep spinning those discs. Buy a t-shirt. Subscribe. Share. like wherever you are on social media. So, I'm Now Spinning Magazine. Keep spinning those discs, and I'll see you very, very soon.